Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is Saturday. I'm actually moving these. One thing that I've been trying to do is I have a Saturday morning business meeting where we're working on some Amazon publishing stuff, and that kind of overlaps. We try to make it an hour, 7:30 to 8:30. Um, it's not working out though. So by the time I originally had intended for these streams to start, which was 9 o'clock. It just hasn't been working out. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to be moving these to 10. I wanted it a little bit earlier, 9 o'clock, because it's before my kiddos get up, and sometimes there could be a ruckus. But we're going to try this and see how this goes. So I hope everyone is doing well and enjoying your Saturday. It's super cold here in Michigan, so we're just trying to stay warm. I think I say that for, at least for the first few episodes here, because it has been freezing. So, yeah. So today what I want to talk about, again, we're going through Jay Abraham's book, Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. And today we're going to be talking about how to make an offer that you can't refuse. And so this is kind of a caveat to the whole conversation of what it means to create a really good offer. And that's a conversation that we're going to have at some point, because it's, there are really a couple things. The quality of your headline and the quality of your offer are really critical in terms of making a really good conversion. Let's see, do I have anybody on? If you're on, just at some point, let me know if the audio is off or anything. Feel free to just kind of leave a comment and I'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully nothing's overbearing. I did some test runs. My audio was a little high, but I think it should be set. Good headline. Typically you want a good headline, and obviously good offers. There's ways to make absolutely killer offers. And in this book today, really, in this chapter 7, Jay doesn't really get into how to make an offer, even though it's called Make Them an Offer They Can't Refuse. He's getting into a specific type of offer, and that type of offer is a risk reversal offer. And I've talked about it before. I thought it was important to overlap this again into this video and kind of have it as its standalone to make sure I don't miss anything here. So really, when it comes to risk reversal, let's kind of jump into it. You want the quality of the offer being given to the who, right? So you want to know part of the premise, and this is before we actually get into the book. The biggest part of making a really good offer is knowing who the offer is going to. So having a target that you can create an offer for. So that's part of the component that makes it really important. And so a lot of people think about the offer, but they don't have any type of continuity around who the offer is actually being made to. The second part is to understand the lifetime value of your client. So sometimes you can make an offer ridiculously irresistible, and you may break even, or you may even lose money on them taking that offer. And I'll give you a practical example of a client that I have where this was the case. It looked like the advertisement method they were utilizing was actually losing them money. But when you take into account the lifetime value of a client, you could find a marketing channel where you might break even or lose money on. But the reality is, you're actually making money because the customer is a repeat customer. You've acquired them at a very small fee, or not at all. So you need to understand the who. If you don't understand the who, you're going to miss the mark of the offer. And as an example, I saw an ad the other day. It was print collateral. So this was an expensive ad. It was for a phone. I won't get into who the phone company was or anything like that, but the offer was when the headline. Now, this is where all the investment goes in. Going back to David Ogilvy saying 80% of your marketing advertisement on any given campaign should be spent on crafting the headline. So the headline's important because people aren't going to read your offer if you turn them off with the headline. And the offer was something along the lines of giving you clarity. And it was a picture of somebody holding a phone, giving like an aha. So I want you to think about, this was a big enough company to where there was some sufficient investments going on with this actual ad. So there was a lot of marketing behind this. And this is the headline they came up with: giving clarity. There's a huge disconnect there between the who and the messaging, because I don't know a single person who was like, you know what I need today? I need some clarity. And I think the best place I can get it is by buying a new phone. You know, I mean, come on, that's just not, that's not a marketing feature or benefit that anybody is utilizing to purchase their new phone. So that's, again, that's a total mismarket message, but it's also not really leaning into who your market is, because once you analyze the right market, you can create the right offer. So now Jay starts this chapter by talking about risk refusal, and he gives this story about a dad looking to buy a pony for his daughter. And so in this town, there was two ponies for sale. One was for $500 and one was for $750. And the offer for the first one was, we'll give you this pony for $500 and at no cost, right? Or I take it or leave it. I'm sorry, take it or leave it. It's $500. Take the pony or leave it. The guy who was selling his for $750 did a risk reversal. And what he said was, I will give you this pony for 30 days. Don't pay me yet. Just take it for 30 days. See if your daughter likes it. I'm going to drive it up to your house. I'll drop it off. I'll give you a month's supply of food. And once a week, my stableman will come to your house and teach your daughter how to care for the pony, how to ride the pony, how to give the pony water, and how to, you know, basically care completely for the pony. And after 30 days, I'm going to drive up with my trailer, and either one of two things will happen. You'll keep it and you'll pay me, or I'll bring it back. No questions asked. Which one do you think you would have bought? Right? Like that is a brilliant methodology that shows, like, that's a pony, but there are things like that you can do for whatever business that you have that can make saying no extremely, extremely difficult. And that's kind of the point. For you or for your clients, you need to be thinking about, how do we lower the barrier of entry to the product or service that we have? You want it to be easy. Jay says, you know, you want to make it easy for your clients to say yes. And this goes back to, once you understand the lifetime value of your client, you can determine how much you can spend to acquire them, which means that you can create a deal that your competitors will look at and be like, there's no way, you're not making money on that offer. We can't offer that. Doesn't always mean the lowest price. It could mean adding features or adding benefits to the deal, or some amazing bonus where you actually end up losing money in the deal, but you acquire the value of that client over a period of their life. And so people from the outside who are just trying to build businesses on the front end will miss the dynamic capabilities and multiplying effects of making money on the back end, because risk reversals, you know, and irresistible offers are built on the premise that you're trying to acquire a customer. So one example that I was talking about, there's a client that locally does massages and self-treatments like that. And one of the things that they were utilizing was Groupon. And so as they looked at Groupon, they saw that basically they were spending the amount of money to acquire the customer that was their profit margin. So $60 for a massage, let's say they make $20, and then whoever's giving it gets a tip in addition to that. And they were spending like $25 or something ridiculous on acquiring that customer. So they were actually at the end of the day, they were losing $2, I think $2 and like 40 something cents. And from a perception, that looks like a losing deal. You're losing money every time somebody from Groupon comes in. But what you don't realize is that if 50% of those customers, which is the ratio here, come back 3 additional times over the course of a year, and you make $25 plus a tip for every one of those extra times, you just spent $2.50 to acquire a $300 profit margin over the next 12 months. Not math is exact, but that's the key to understanding your irresistible offer. Even for situations where it's not always a repeat customer, there are still ways you can lower the barrier of entry and get your customer to come in. So those are just some examples here of how that begins to work. And so as long as you know that lifetime value, you can pay more to acquire the customer and beat out your competition with a great offer. Again, not always lowest price wins, but just what can you give them to lower the barrier of entry. So, I've said it before, the better you understand the lifetime value of your client, the more you can spend to acquire them, hence the better your offer becomes. So Jay talks all in this chapter about risk reversals. That's the whole point of this entire chapter. So chapter 7 is, in terms of creating an irresistible offer, it's how do you create one that makes it a guarantee. You want them psychologically to get past thinking that they're making a bad decision. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's typically, if they're interacting with you, they've already have a good understanding of what it's going to cost, no matter the cost of the commodity or service. What they're trying to do is get past the psychological barrier that they might be making a bad decision. And if you know you can answer that you're going to provide them with whatever it is that they're looking for better than your competitors, then you do have a moral obligation to lower that barrier so that they can get the job done and get it done correctly. So you want to remove all barriers to acquire the customer. So Jay talks about money back guarantees is his approach in this chapter. And so this is utilized all across the internet. You actually have to get a little bit more creative than this, because if you have like an internet marketing business specifically, I mean, that's just a given, just because people now know like PayPal and Stripe and ClickBank or whatever you might be using, they all have 30-day money back guarantees where they won't even investigate. They'll award basically the refund request back to the customer. So you have to be creative. So he talks about BTRF, better than risk reversal, or I don't know the acronym, but it would be something like, if you come into our shop, or if you come into our coffee location, this isn't the best cup of coffee that you've tasted in this city, we'll not only give you your money back, but we'll buy a cup of coffee at your competitor. So that's a better than risk reversal. Really lowers the barrier. You just want to do the math and determine like what's the probability of people, is it really the best cup of coffee in town? If it's not, you probably don't want to do this offer. I mean, it has to actually, you got to know, like, I've had every coffee in town and this is the best coffee. You want to test your risk reversals all the time. I mean, test everything you do. I harp on every client that I have. Like, this is probably one of the points that I talk about. This is the point of differentiation when it comes to marketing. You have to have measurable results, and you have to be testing those results. So when you find a winning marketing method, so half the battle is finding the best possible marketing methodologies for your client or for yourself. So you're like, if you haven't been investing in marketing, you're just getting into it, you're going to need to be trying like a bunch of different methods to find out which ones work. Now, typically 20% are going to be responsible for 80% of your revenue. Once you've discovered those methodologies that give you the best results, now your job is to create variables of those offers. You can do 50 of the same type of offer with a subtle difference in the headline. And you're going to find winners in those variables that are going to exceed all other options. So you got to test. Even when it comes to money back guarantees, you have to test. Let's see. Test all things. So test. For instance, I just want to hit on this point a little bit more. I got to turn this down a little more. I don't know if you guys can hear that background music, but it's driving. It's I'm actually just going to cut that one for now. We're doing Amazon republishing on Saturday mornings. It's actually we're doing it. We meet every Saturday morning. And one of the things we do is we find a book that's public domain that basically which ones are selling the best out of the ones that we're doing all the work on republishing, creating new covers. But when we find one that the market seems to like, the job then is to create variables of the original ad that we're utilizing in Amazon and create subtle differences in like 10, I'll even do 50 at times. And typically, what you'll see is that without testing, you won't know this. This is kind of the unknowns. You'll just put an offer, say, that worked. But you'll find one that just shouts above all the rest. So if you're going to go as far as create an irresistible offer, you need to get that far and then begin to test like that offer in conjunction with subtle differences. Now, the key is when you're testing, every test needs to have a variable that's distinguishable. One problem that people will do is even with a money back guarantee, and then they add some bonuses, is that they'll change in one ad or one marketing campaign, everything, and they won't know what contributed to the increase in sales. So I always find one that works. And then I create a bunch of different ads or marketing campaigns with subtle differences, starting with the headline. I want to optimize the headline. So I'll create a couple different words. I'll get into the demographics and psychographics of the customer, understand what their pain points are. And then from there, you launch a campaign, you test it, and then you find the one that works. That one goes public, or that one gets to the whole audience or the whole list, and you begin to rake in money from that effective campaign. So basically, that's what you want to do. Jay goes in this chapter, and he talks about a couple different people that are utilizing this methodology. So he talks about a realtor who was absolutely at the time of this book killing it in one market, because he was basically saying, I'm going to sell you, if you're buying this as an investment property, if this doesn't rent out within the first, if you don't have a tenant within the first 120 days of you purchasing it, I will pay for your rent up to 2 years or until we find a tenant, as long as you give us the rights to manage the property. And I mean, that just lowered the barrier. I mean, basically he's saying like, if you don't find somebody, and what's the likelihood of somebody not finding a tenant within 120 days? I mean, unless they're completely gutting it and, it's going to take them that long to do it. But these offers were made on properties that didn't require that kind of work. So they were very turnkey. But it definitely removes the psychological barrier to the person purchasing the property. Oh, I mean, what can I lose here? If I don't find someone, I'm covered for the next 2 years. So the thing about risk reversals, though, is that there will be people to utilize them, but you just have to look at like what your return was. So you could get a 3% refund request, but your business could go up 300%. And so typically there's an offset of a much higher increase in sales versus the amount of people that are obviously asking for their money back guarantee. Now, if they are doing that at a higher rate than, let's say, I mean, it should never exceed 5%. But if that's the case, your risk reversal is wrong. You're not providing the service or the quality that you thought you were, and you need to work on the actual product or service and then go back to the guarantee. Jay goes into the end of this chapter just talking about like a power equipment company where you rent like big like lifts and stuff, or you buy them. And so basically, they did the same thing. And in this case, they said, if you're not happy, we'll pick it up and we'll bring it back. No questions asked. You had 30 days to try it out. They had a 3%. In this case, they did have a 3% return on the guarantees, but their business, I think he said it went up 260% in sales. So it definitely overbalance the risk, the guarantee request. Let's see. He talks about a hospital in here. There was 2 hospitals in the same city, and basically they just listened. This goes back to the WHO. They listened to the number one complaint that people had, which was the anxiety of knowing that they were going to sit in a waiting room for possibly 60 minutes. It didn't always happen, but it happened. And so one hospital decided to create a guarantee that said, we guarantee that you will never sit in our waiting room longer than 30 minutes before you see a physician. And it absolutely crushed the other competition. He talks about a builder as an example, a builder that said, I will never go over the budget that I give you, the assessed budget for this project. And if I do, I'll pay the difference. I mean, that's a big psychological dilemma for people that are looking to build. So the quote that you give will be the quote that you end up with. So how do you do this? So I would say the first start is to write down the obstacles to your current clients, right? Like every obstacle you can think of, no matter what the commodity or services that you provide, there are obstacles that people have to purchasing your product. You have to dive a little bit in, figure out how to ask, just be casual. There's different ways that you can ask. There's different ways that you can interview. There's different motivations to get an interview. You could say, when something, for a month, if you want, or some financial motivation or whatever it might be, but find out what those psychological barriers are. And then just answer those barriers in your advertisement or your marketing campaigns and offer a guarantee that actually answers that problem. So that's how you do it. You start with understanding the psychological barrier to your prospective clients. You create a marketing campaign that answers that, giving them a risk reversal. Like, we know that this is your concern, but we are assuring you that we're going to answer that problem. And here's the proof. We're going to either give you your money back, or we're going to create a better than risk reversal. And so that's one offer. Now, there are a ton of different offers. And so that's a subject that I'll have for the Grafted In YouTube channel as a standalone. It won't be in this book. I don't think we don't cover all the offer possibilities, and I won't even be able to do it. But this is just one. This is a preliminary one. This is one that you should definitely be testing, trying, and if you know that there's a psychological barrier, you obviously have an obligation to answer that problem. So that is all I have for today. I hope that helps. That's chapter 7. We will actually be getting into chapter 8. Would you like the left shoe too? So that's giving the customer better end result than when they started and what they were looking for. So that's another offer. We'll be going through that as well. And that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoy your Saturday. Take care. And just 2 things really quick. If you haven't yet, go to graftedin.io. You can subscribe to my email list where I'll be pushing different content out there as well. And of course, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel to get notifications when I go live. So that's all I have for today. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care.